now because I have been known to forget that a time or two. Welcome everyone who is coming out to hear about this wonderful information that we're going to be sharing this evening. If everybody could just kind of mute their microphones for now. There will be a Q&A portion, towards the end to make sure that everybody gets all of their questions addressed. I wanted to make sure we started on time, and I am very excited to introduce a gentleman to you guys that he may be new to you, but I've known him for 10 years now, and he's a business partner. He's a great friend, a great ally in this space and the things that we do. Um, when I speak of a gentleman by the name of Ryan Early. Now, Ryan Early, Ryan was one of my very first mentors in the cannabis space after I retired from the Air Force after doing 21 years in 2016. And when our paths just so happened to cross downtown Oklahoma at uh, the signing of House Bill, I think it was 2913. That was our first, experience with one another. And lo and behold, come to find out, the gentleman's already a titan in a lot of things that he was doing. He was also the general contractor for Northwestern Oklahoma State University's industrial hemp pilot program when they were trying to figure things out between the 2014-2018 federal farm bill. He helped write and pass, a lot of that legislation, working with the legislators, in the state of Oklahoma. So he has a tremendous story. He's been doing a lot of great things. And of course, he had a life, before cannabis as well, in terms of what we'll get into in a bit. But, while we're out here, I just want to do a quick sound check. Ryan,
No,
can you hear me okay?
this is oh,
Uh,
press
can
my
you can, can you mute your microphones, please? Everybody except Ryan. Ryan, can you hear me okay?
Roger that, sir.
How are you today?
I am sitting on the back porch in the shade, enjoying life, sir. How about you?
Man, I am down here at the office in the air conditioning because it's hot outside here in Alabama. All right. I'm not doing that outside thing right now. But the weather is really good down here. We just finished up with a lot of rain, so it's, been good. And man, thank you so much for taking the time to come out here and explain, what we have going on. I know you've always got a million irons in the fire to begin with anyway, but just wanted to have people to come out here, have a chance to go to the well to get to the water. With everything that's going on with the New World screw worm, people are going to make all kind of claims and whatnot. But I know you're at the forefront of this thing, and I wanted you to have the opportunity to come out here, tell a little bit of your story, and how the products that you're developing are going to help with this. And I've got the PowerPoints. We can share those. I've got all the slicks pulled up as well. But man, like before we transition to screwworm, like how did you get involved with this plant that we know and love that's called industrial hemp?
Oh, geez. So 2014, 15, my niece was Lennox-Gastaut syndrome, which is a deadly form of childhood epilepsy. And like many others in this space, I was looking for a way to be able to help her, to get her off some of the pharmaceuticals that were causing her to be wheelchair bound, have to be strapped, to be drooling. It just wasn't cool, man. And so we started hearing about CBD doing good things for some other kiddos. And well, lo and behold, we started going to Colorado and meeting with some people. And in another life, I was a plumbing contractor. However, I specialized in water purification, and I got into engineering my own systems, OEMing them, service and sales statewide, and using column chromatography back, like I said, 2014, 2015, we started figuring out how to remove THC to only allow CBD. And well, that didn't take long, and we had that figured out and went and met with our good friend down at OBN
Mhm.
and set some stuff on his desk. And he said, well, either you're going to jail or you figured something out. I said, I'll anxiously await your call, sir. 3 days later, they called and said, yeah, man, can you come in the office? And I said, okay, here we go. He said, there's zero THC in this product. This is legal to sell in Oklahoma under Katie's law. And we opened the lab 3 weeks later, began manufacturing in state, importing everything that we had to until we could cultivate here, which was
Mhm.
House Bill 2913.
Yep,
I
that was
did have a little part in that. And that allowed us to partner with universities to do research. And I think we were probably the only actual research program that got ran in those 2 years.
Mhm.
I think everybody else was pretty well looking to grow and monetize.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, my plan was a little different. Growing up here, I knew that cannabis grows wild everywhere in Oklahoma, from the border of Kansas down to the Red River. Go east, go west. And so I wanted to run a project that we went county by county and collected samples of this heirloom or feral, hemp, and it was mostly hemp. I believe we collected 114 different varietals,
Now, now,
chemovarically different.
sorry to cut you off, Ryan,
No,
but
you're good.
everything that you did led to you becoming the general contractor for Northwestern Oklahoma State University's Industrial Hemp Pilot Program, correct?
Yes, sir. So I did skip that. I talked with several schools, and nobody really wanted to be a part of my program. They just wanted me to cut them a big fat check and take all the credit for whatever comes out of it, as most university research programs do. For anyone that's familiar with those, you know what I'm saying. And
Hmm.
so I had a different plan. I wanted to fund my program. I didn't ask for any grant money or any money from the school or any resources from the school. However, I wanted to hold my intellectual property as ownership and not as license. And so after about 9 different schools presenting and them not agreeing to those terms, I found Northwestern Oklahoma State. President Janet Cunningham understood the value in the actual research that we were going to do and signed off on our program, but said, we don't want any liability, right? So we're going to make you the general contractor. And well, that's how it worked out. Their legal counsel and my legal counsel came up with a pretty good platform. Worked great. Everybody's happy. So during that program, again, we went out. All 77 counties contributed genetics, and so literally every county in the state. We started getting calls from farmers. News stories started getting ran on what we were doing, and that just kind of blew it up. And so for 4.5 months, that's all we did was drive all over the state and look at different wild cannabis grows. OBN gave us a list of all their known sites that they had tried to destroy year after year, mostly unsuccessfully, because it's a pretty resilient plant, right?
Hmm.
And we did we took samples from everywhere and we started running testing, started looking for something special. And well, actually, we got up to the northern border, about 7 miles south of Kansas, and
And you,
found
you
one that
found, yeah, there we go. There we go. Yeah.
well, one that stood out. By stood out, I mean it's end of September, and this what I would consider a patch. It was probably about a 7 acre abandoned field. Looked like it had been abandoned forever. And in it, this cannabis was in flower. It was unaffected by most of the things we would see, like bud rot, mildew, grasshoppers. They weren't present. They looked absolutely beautiful. And so we sampled that, of course, and sent that out for testing immediately. I realized that this specific genetic had no CBD, no THC, no CBG, no anabolics, no cannabinoids present. It's what the USDA considers a Schedule 5 hemp plant. But it did contain a very, very unique terpene profile, which when we broke that down and got very granular on it, pardon me, my voice is about shot, guys. I've been talking for 3 weeks straight. When we broke that down, we found a very specific biochemical sequence, and this sequence appears in aphids and spider mites and whiteflies, in many commonly, agriculturally affected nuisance insects. And it's a warning mechanism, a pheromone that tells them danger. Go away. Don't stay away from this area. Very effective. Auburn University did some trials for us a couple of years ago. Those are published on the website actually. Shows 212%, I believe it was, more effective than neem oil at every stage of life. all the way through flower, zero residuals, zero plant toxicity, even at 10 times recommended label strength. The plant health increase was about 12%, water reduction, nutrient reduction, or increase in overall yield post application with the same inputs. I mean, it's pretty good stuff. That is available on the market. We have that product. It's called Blue Magic Naturals. However, we also found that it was effective in repelling what seemed to be repelling mosquitoes, ticks, other bloodsuckers, flies, horn flies, bot flies, face flies. And about 6 months ago, 5.5 months ago, we got a call from South America for one of the gentlemen that is in our network who works closely with Copeg, which is kind of their USDA. And they are the ones, the home base for M3 Labs, which is who's releasing all of these sterile flies and where they're all coming from. And so they said, hey, we heard about technology you have. Would this be effective for the New World screwworm fly? No idea. They're not going to let me bring them here to America to find out. And so we began working on, okay, what can we do, for testing? Again, bot flies we do have here in Oklahoma. Most everybody does. They're very similar, actually the same genus. They just have a few different markings. And we started doing some independent testing, worked on some, let's just say, fine honing the formulation that caused the most behavioral disruption. And we found that the way it works with bloodsuckers is by a means of disrupting that host signal detection system. They use pheromonal sequences to initiate, like in ticks, for example, questing. So it causes them to go from sitting dormant. Now they also respond to vibrations, frequency, heat, etc. But pheromones are one of their cues. And so we found that we can effectively disrupt that cue. And when paired with a lure and trap system, we can actually drive them from areas such as livestock, pens, feedlots, shady areas, backyards. We can effectively create a barrier where they do not want to be, and offer a solution where they do want to be. And that has been extremely effective, and kind of the novel basis to what we've now entering into field trials. So that said, I will stop, take a breath.
Well, so while you're taking your breath, and we'll jump into Q&A, here shortly, but like I just wanted to, for me, and I'm not trying to be, condescending towards anyone. I just know that there are some people who very well may not be aware. But I wanted to ask you, man, why are ranchers and government agencies so concerned about New World screwworm?
Well, the New World screwworm spreads rapidly, has a very fast life cycle. And I mean, it's marched 1,200 miles in the last year and a half, now into southern Texas and New Mexico. And not just the border, it actually skipped about 70 miles inland. And I believe I think there's 13 cases now, as of this morning.
Oh, wow.
That are active, one in a dog. The New World screwworm. So let's just kind of go through the life cycle, right? It
You want me to
fly.
pull the slide up for you, Ryan? I've got the slide.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
works great. You got a
Okay.
slide.
Yep. I got
Awesome.
a slide right here. Let's go here. And as a matter of fact, it's the first one that I put in the presentation, bro. Boom. Look at that. Can you see
So
that?
it's a pretty vicious cycle. And what really separates the New World screwworm fly from, let's say, a regular house fly is the maggots from a regular house fly, the larvae, the pupas. They eat dead things, right? Rotting food, rotting flesh, etc. The New World screwworm eats living tissue, live flesh. And once those eggs are deposited, they hatch pretty quick. The larvae are what the actual problem is that can eat the size. One fly landing on one cut or navel site or fresh castration site can land, and it can can actually devour the flesh about the size of your fist. And so you can imagine if there's more than one site, and then once that site's open, more flies are drawn to that site, which just continues to expand. And I mean that's muscle tissue that doesn't grow back. Which even if the cow is treated, or animal in any case, is treated, which is very costly, time consuming, delaying of progress. We're talking about a substantial amount of loss of physical weight, let alone the drugs that are currently approved to treat them with, which take some 30, 60, 90 days to get out of the system before cattle can be processed or milked. So clearly, if you're a large dairy operation, that is a huge concern to you. If you have exotic livestock, which can be more difficult to manage than cattle in most cases, very concerning. Those are very high profile animals. Again, this fly doesn't differentiate. I think there was 278 cases in humans in Mexico in the last 2 years, with 2 deaths. And so every mammal is susceptible to these, and they've been eradicated once before very effectively with the SWAS program that was rolled out in the early 60s. And well, unfortunately, we now know that dichloram was responsible for tens of thousands of deaths. And God knows how many animals that ate these flies that were poisoned, and they fly off and get ate, and it just continues the cycle. It was terrible. So that's not really an option. And that is why the USDA, is currently seeking alternatives, things that can be effective. They're using the flies, sterile flies, which everyone's been seeing on the TV. And I mean, that's Bill Gates technology for flying syringe mosquitoes. Same thing as the sterilized ticks they're dropping in the Northeast to try to combat the spread of Lyme disease. To drop millions of flies on ranches and say, we're going to get rid of your flies that's kind of asinine. And it's not working. We can get into more of that later, but pretty sure I got way off target of your original question. So
no. That was great, man. And I wanted to ask one more follow-up because, like I know people out here for different reasons, but you already mentioned cattle, but aside from cattle, what animals do you feel are most at risk for New World School?
Well, all animals. Now, I mean, we talk about our pets. I my little fox terrier goes everywhere I go and doesn't get more than a few feet from me. I keep pretty good eyes on him, but I know a lot of ranchers have dogs, a lot of sheep dogs that stay in the field, in the barns. Newborn animals, naval sites, calves are probably the most at risk, most susceptible, and fresh castration sites. But any wound or even an opening, an ear, a nose, etc., can if that fly decides to land there and lay eggs, those larvae will hatch in 24 to 30 hours, and they will begin boring into tissue.
And how long does it take? How quickly can an infestation become serious?
Well, I mean, just the life cycle itself, you're talking one fly laying eggs to those eggs hatching to becoming pupa and causing, of course, damage and pain to the animal before they drop to the ground, burrow in, hatch into a fly, and emerge and start the cycle over. It's about 21 days.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a lot more than 13 cases in the U.S. I can guarantee you there a lot of lack of reporting, understandably, and B, we don't know how many wild animals, etc., are infected right now, and I don't know. I can get into the whole conspiracy side of things, right? That they're breeding flies and releasing them and spreading them in new areas because track records repeat themselves. But fact is, it's happening, and I mean, I've heard it out of Commissioner Miller's mouth publicly that they expect this to be a 10-year problem. This isn't going away anytime soon.
Wow.
And that is why we want to get ahead of it now. And through, even if we cannot get USDA funded trials, if we can get some state help and independent help, to be able to advocate that there are effective technologies out there, that don't require caustic chemicals, that don't require genetic modification of organisms, and actually provide some benefit to the cattle, unlike permethrin, Camphos, and some of the other stuff that's being used that's it's carcinogenic and it's an environmental hazard, though it's approved because it doesn't mean it's organic. So those are the big concerns, and it does happen quick. The problem with current treatments like permethrin, which has been used forever. Most anyone got cattle on here knows exactly what permethrin is. It's a contact killer. It has to be sprayed on the fly to be able to actually kill it. And well, unfortunately, we're soaking our livestock in it, and well, I mean let's just say it can't be healthy, right? It's a chemical carcinogen. Nonetheless, I'm excited to get these trials started so we can validate that we can be as or more effective than currently used treatments and complement trap systems and other systems that the USDA is already employing.
Now, Ryan, I was looking for one slide. I do have another slide I'm going to pull up here, and I'm going to pull it up. I'm going to ask this question, pull it up, and kind of let you, if it's okay, elaborate on the products that are involved with the system that you have. Is that okay?
For sure.
So, what is host detection disruption?
Well, that is essentially we are deploying a product. We have a concentrate, we have a granule, gets put around perimeter and in areas of interest, and we have a wound care system. All of those implore our pheromonal replication process that again scrambles those signals that are emitted by a host to, say in this case, a New World screwworm adult fly, saying this is a good place to lay my eggs or a good place for food or whatever that may be. And what the best way to describe that is, again, they use smell, and if we can plug their nose or mask that with a replicable signature that they do not recognize as an acceptable host, then that fly will go somewhere else and either lay eggs somewhere else or not mate and die. And that is the goal, is to stop the infestation before it starts, keep them off the animals and not just treat the aftermath, which is the current method of.
So keep them off the animals, disrupt the signal so that they can't get to the animals, put granules around the pins and whatnot where the animals are so they don't want to be there. And that in turn drives them to the traps where they can go off to die, right?
That's correct. The second portion of this novel technology is to actually have a push-pull system, right? We have a lure that we've developed specifically for red meat seeking flies, such as the New World screwworm, bot flies, face flies, and a trap design that we're in production with now that will complement that. Those traps will be on outlying areas away from pens, barns, etc., places we don't want flies. We'll deploy the FaraGuard system, which again is a granule, a concentrate spray for both animal and fields, and the topical wound care for any open wounds, fresh castration sites, naval sites, etc. And that is the goal, is to protect the animal and drive the unwanted nuisance pests to those lure traps.
That's that's an amazing system. I love the way you designed it, how things just kind of go, it's like A, B, C. Everything kind of goes hand in hand. And a lot of it can be used with, the current systems that are out there. This just kind of enhances it to get, more of those flies to those traps versus being on the animals. And what I wanted to ask one more question prior to turning it over to Q&A, if you wanted to go over real quick. I have the slide right here for the comparison analysis. of what they're traditionally running right now versus what it's going to cost in comparison to running this system. So with that being said, Ryan, can you see the slide for the cost comparisons here?
I can, yes.
Awesome.
So again, this is a baseline comparison. Obviously, each ranch in different regions are going to experience different levels of wound care, etc. But it gives a pretty good idea. And this information came from five ranchers and one TDA agent who works with those ranchers on a daily basis, monitoring their traps currently. So we feel like we're pretty close. With the FairGuard system, it will eliminate again most of the topical products that are currently being sold, marketing for New World screwworm, etc. Again, the F10 Amphos. You can replace permethrin with our concentrate that's non-toxic. Again, not as a contact killer, as a protector of the herd. And then, of course, that's going to reduce cost. Ultimately, the goal is to reduce cost and provide a much safer, much healthier product for the livestock. Just like within plants, what we've already seen in other pre-trials, if you will, is when our livestock, our horses, goats, pigs, I've got a lot of good feedback coming in on pigs right now.
Nice.
When they're happy, you see that, especially if you're tracking them by the ounce daily. And so we've got a lot of showers that are going, hey, this is not just getting rid of the flies in our area, in our trailers, etc. But it's also improving the health of our animal. They're not just happier, but they feel better. Well, sure, because you're not poisoning them with caustic chemicals, right? It kind of makes sense. So we're not, of course, promoting it as a health benefactor, but it's pretty easy to put two and two together. Stop spraying them with chemicals, and well, they enjoy that. Sure, you would too. So yeah, that's kind of the gist of it.
Definitely. Well, I could go on. I gotta look, I did my research, man. I got a whole stack of stuff that I could add here. But I wanted to give, others out here the opportunity to unmute or raise a hand, and ask whatever questions they may have, because, the only way people are gonna have a true sense for how this works is to be able to ask the exact questions
Sure.
that they have and not the questions that I have, because they may not be the same. So at this time, if someone wants to unmute and ask a question, please let it rip. And I'm kind of monitoring the speakers on the side here. Let's see who we've got. We've got Theo Alexander, all the way from Hawaii. Hawaii. Aloha, Theo.
Aloha. How's you gentlemen doing today?
Good, man. How you doing?
Hey, pretty good. I hope everybody on the call is enjoying their Father's Day, even though we're on this call. I mean, this is a good present to me. But hey, I did want to ask the question. I know we have been on some calls earlier, and the discussion of the price of beef came up, or just the price of livestock and the opportunity for people to endure higher costs as far as raising cattle or preparing them for the market. Brian or JJ, whichever one, can you kind of cover why the cost of beef is going to go up dramatically if we allow the screwworm to persist, and the current remedies they have that are very toxic, as you spoke about, Ryan? What does that do to that process?
Well, we can start with the fact that Canada already stopped the importation of beef a week and a half ago from the U.S. Due to this pandemic outbreak, as they're calling it. We're now seeing interstate commerce be questioned as more cases are coming about. I feel personally that any day we're going to see the stop transport of interstate commerce from affected states. Right now, it's just in affected zones in those states where there's been active cases. But, you know, again, I can get off on the conspiracy side and say, well, they've been burning down turkey factories and chicken plants and everything else, and beef is next. However, there is an active problem. I want to say Belize was 53% infection rate in their cattle, and they don't have a small herd, it's millions. That's devastating. Could you imagine if 53% of our livestock in the US were currently infected?
Man.
Loss rates in the tens of billions annual. So it's important that we get ahead of this and do things that we can deploy. The one thing, like with the trials that we're already engaging in and signing ranchers up on, we're going to be actively monitoring these traps weekly. We will be recording those results of what fly species are in them, how many, et cetera, et cetera. And I can guarantee you that once we deploy this trial along the Oklahoma border, New Mexico border, and areas in Texas, we will be a first detection of active flies in the area prior to infection in animals. Right? Let's get ahead of that. That's the whole basis to that. So, Theo, I hope that helped.
Yes, it definitely helped. One of the other things I remember on the call, they were saying that because they're using these current forms that is very toxic to the cattle or to the dairy industry, that the people have the cattle in the feedlot another 30 to 90 days extra before they even go to the market with them. And that's crazy as far as expense.
That's post, for beef feedlot, that's devastating. That's literally every day watching your margins become slimmer and slimmer, plus additional cost of treatment, which again is not cheap. Especially if you have a veterinarian or, someone out there doing that, you're not doing it yourself. Dairy cows, same thing. They have to go off the machine. They have to be isolated and treated. That can take 90 to 120 days to get treated and get a clean bill of health. Again, let alone the biotoxicity of the products that are being used right now. So our whole push is to prevent and promote healthy solutions versus caustic chemical products that are being approved as emergency use left and right, even though they've been illegal to use for food, livestock food specifically, right, in the food supply chain for 50, 60, 100 years. They don't have a lot of good solutions. And to my knowledge, we are the only company that is non-toxic and US based that is engaging in trials to combat this.
Right.
Gonna be.
Hey, real quick, guys, we got a couple of guys with their hands up, so I want to make sure we have an opportunity to get to their questions. Theo, thank you for that. Wanted to slide to Ken Farm. Ken, can you please unmute and go ahead and ask your question?
Hi, sorry. I'll let Theo keep going. I work with him on the big in Hawaii.
Okay. Aloha.
Aloha. But I do have a couple of questions here. Sorry, on the technical side. You mentioned one of the places in South America, but one of the largest importers is Argentina. Do we have any numbers on where they're at with regard to, their possible infection rate?
JJ, can you look that up for us right quick, JJ, while we're talking?
The infection rate for Argentina?
Yep, it'll pull right up. Just Google it. I just don't have it off the top of my head. I'm not in front of a computer. Pacing on my back porch as I usually do.
Okay.
So apologies. Please go ahead, Ken.
Oh, no, appreciate it. And then the other question was dealing with, because, thinking about from a Hawaii perspective, we have a lot of, pets and feral animals. And once something's on an island, I mean, that means that pretty much that island is going to be quarantined based upon what you're saying, because we don't have state to state in terms of contiguous, but we do have shipping. We have, planes that are used when it comes to cattle. That thing you mentioned about the changing of the interstate commerce from what it currently is to what the changes may be where it's going to be by state, that's a pretty big deal, especially for a place like Texas or so. So can you just elaborate a little bit more? I mean, does the USDA really understand like what's at stake here when we're talking about that level of quarantine?
Well, I mean, there's been a pretty big rift between state legislature and the feds. Secretary Rollins. Sure, most of you have probably seen some stuff between Commissioner Miller saying that releasing these flies, and what we've been doing is not working, and we need to bring back SWAS and other programs and look at new technologies to combat this. And the USDA just signed, I think, another 10 billion for the sterilized fly program for Merck. And they will not engage in the SWAS side. So I think as we see more cases pick up, you're going to see ranchers and states begin pushing for the enactment of SWAS, which again was a government-funded program that used bait stations and dichlorian to kill them. And while that won't work today, because again, we know that's terrible for the environment and for everything else, again, we have a viable option. There are other viable options out there to be able to deploy and get ahead of it. Again, early detection, I believe, is going to be key in keeping this from happening, or at least, doing our part to reduce that. And I don't know about you, but I don't want anybody releasing millions of flies a month on my properties. I would rather trap the ones that are already there and get rid of them. So, that said, the interstate commerce portion of it, and even international import export of not just beef, but these flies are not, again, just affecting cattle. This is all livestock, exotics. We've been talking to the Dallas Zoo and the Austin Zoo about getting them on board to go ahead and deploy a trial and get them some product. So the product that we're trialing, just so everyone knows, I'll just transition into that right quick. It is 25B exempt, which means it is considered as a minimum risk pesticide made from mostly natural and or GRAS ingredients. The pheromone complex that we have the intellectual property to is considered research status only. And so we are conducting this trial program so we can present that to the EPA and the USDA for fast track authorization. Once that happens, then we will actually be able to take this product to retail market. So until then, nothing is for sale. It is only a trial basis.
And just real quick, Ryan, I went to Google, looked up what you asked, and confirmed it with ChatGPT as well. And currently in Argentina, there's no single nationwide infection rate reported for Argentina because surveillance is usually conducted locally in livestock populations, wildlife, or isolated human cases rather than as a continuous national prevalence estimate. So that's
I've got one from COPEG that was released that showed all the South American countries. Bear with me just 1 second and I'll dig that one out.
Okay. And we do
This
have
one may be a
another
few weeks old, but
we
go
do
ahead.
have another hand raised. Corey, stand by. We got Corey Henry. So I just want you to know you're up next, bro. Didn't forget about you. Just letting Ryan do his thing.
Where is it at? Boy, it's a little ways back. That was a couple months ago. Oh, it's right here. There it is. Okay. So South America endemic presence. Argentina is in that presence. It's not in a current outbreak, but they are there. Venezuela, Uruguay, Suriname, Peru, Paraguay, French Guiana, Guyana, Ecuador, Colombia, Brazil, Bolivia, and Argentina are all considered in that endemic presence.
Okay. So
the hot spots, of course, Mexico is an active outbreak. It marched 200 miles in 2 months. It only takes a couple of storms, good wind gusts to pick these flies up and send them to the next spot. And that's how they believe they got into Texas and New Mexico, though there are some fringe theories.
and that, that kind of concerns me with the weather pattern. I know everything, the weather patterns, they start out west and they track east, whether it's, up or down a little bit. But, man, it's not going to be long if this thing isn't gotten under control. Something's going to be, heading, our way where I'm at in Alabama, and other areas. So with that being said, I wanted Corey to have a chance to ask his question as well. So Corey Henry, could you please unmute and ask your question?
Hey, good evening. How you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. And thanks
Awesome.
for inviting me on the call, Theo. I'm here in Atlanta, so I'm definitely in relation to
ATL
where you are
stand
in
up.
Alabama. Um, and and thank you for some runway just to explain kind of what I had in mind. I come at this from a waste management angle. I represent a product called BioCleaner, and we've been dealing with farms as far as eliminating their waste, which is also a big attraction for flies, right? So the USDA has what's called the Equip Equip grant. I don't know if you've heard of those before, but it's uh it's got about 5 billion in funding from the infrastructure bill, and it's out there to help small farmers, veteran farmers, in some cases, new people who have started farming recently, and they fund up to 90% of these kind of improvements. So I think if there was some kind of joint angle that we took as far as like a dual-headed pest prevention angle with the wastewater and with your product, I think we could possibly get it in the Equip grant pipeline uh, under practice 629 for waste treatment and 595 for pest management and conservation. So uh, I've got some stuff that I put together. I'll be happy to send it over to you guys to take a look at. But I was just wondering if you already knew about the Equip grant and if that was a strikeout or something that y'all have tried in the past.
No, Corey, everything that we've done thus far has been with TDA and with COPEG.
Yeah.
Um,
TDA
and so,
being Texas Department of Agriculture, correct?
correct, correct. We have a submittal to the House there. We're just waiting on committee approval for an emergency authorization to deploy again ranches in the affected zones with a trial. But I'd be definitely open to seeing what we can put together to position that to complement each other. I mean, it makes sense. And again, we are, ecologically sustainable and check all those boxes for, you know, credits if they apply there.
Now, Ryan, the way that you're talking about going with this emergency approval, that's they just sign off on it and there's go. There's no waiting. There's no the other traditional things that are associated with trying to get a grant approval. This is pretty much yes, green light, go, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it's not so much the grant approval on that. Once we're done with this trial, we will seek fast track approval by the FDA, USDA,
Exactly.
for on-label use, right, with efficacy backed data. Again, since we're doing it in animals and all mammals, not plants, it's a little different pathway, and we'll have to go back through that 2.5 year process. And while it looks like that this may be a great opportunity to be able to use the, let's just say, emergency status of this biosecurity threat to fast track that and not have to cut all that red tape.
And you mentioned something, with the trials. I know that you guys are going to do a limited number, of ranchers or farms, associated with that. And I know that pipeline it's starting to get there, and you're about to deploy product. But how much more room would you say you have available, for people to participate in this trial that's about to be conducted?
Well, we definitely are not at capacity. Um, we've got a few more that we can get in that will be funded trials. We do have some ranches that have said, look, we want to do more than the 150 head that you're going to trial. We've got 3,000 head. And well, if you put the savings, the actual pen to paper, it's going to save those ranchers about $2,500 a month per per thousand heads. So, I mean, those can be substantial, and again, happier, healthier herds. So there is a method to, yes, we would love to fund every cow in America. But unfortunately, time is of the essence. We anticipate a 60-day trial period. Um, and then however long it's going to take to get from the end of that trial to on-label status for retail distribution, we will allow those ranchers that have been participating in these trials to continue to participate in those trials. Again, we can't sell anything legally because we're not approved on label. However, we can extend our participation area or timeline until that happens. So fact is, we want everyone to see good results in whatever livestock or exotic animals they're working on, and we want them to see cost savings. That's really what it's about. Everyone's rushing out and buying everything that they can to spray. They're spraying more often. They're putting more chemicals into the environment, onto our livestock, and we believe that we can effectively stop the majority of that. Now, ivermectin, even though it doesn't do anything for screwworms, there's a little bit of data that says it's effective in a 12-hour window between the hatching of the egg and the pupa stage. That's unless you're spraying them or putting ivermectin directly on them, it's not going to do any good. But continue to run that because it does do good for other things. That is not one of the currently approved treatment methods that we eliminated during that comparative analysis. That's ivermectin is still in there. So, sheesh. I think I got off topic again. I apologize.
It happens from time to time. It's all good. Like I said, if anyone else, has a question, please raise your hand or raise your hand or unmute and go ahead and ask your question.
Hey,
I see.
JJ, hey, and Ryan, could you guys go over the offer for the trial? I don't know if we covered that just yet on the call, but could you tell them how if they have cattle or other livestock, horses, where they want to be involved in this trial? Can you just kind of give them the parameters, what that looks like, if you don't mind?
Absolutely. Essentially, like I said, we are limited on the amount of completely cost-free trials that we can run. We do still have some room, so if anyone has cattle, livestock, sheep, goats, and or exotic wildlife, high fence areas, etc., we are still taking applications. Get with JJ. He's been signing up
Mhm.
ranchers, walking them through the process, helping them, get the documents final and approved because it is a research program. There is a little bit of paperwork to push. But otherwise, yeah. And Theo, you as well. I know you're on the island working over there. But for everyone on the mainland, JJ can get you in the right direction for sure. Um, and let's see what we can do. Again, I'd love to pay for everything everywhere in the country. We just got to start somewhere. So, and if we
Now,
can get some more money from the state in each state, then that will get deployed directly to, providing more free trials.
Now, Ryan, I know I told you I was going to be good. I wasn't going to be JJ, but I can't let a whole Zoom go by without throwing a little bit of JJ in there, right? But I'll be good, I promise. First of all, if anyone needs to contact me, please feel free to email me. My email address is James, James, at jjgro.com. Once again, James, James, at jjgro.com. That's if anyone wants to be involved with the trials. Now, I'm going to set something up. I'm going to talk about it and I'm going to give it, over to Ryan so that he can kind of put his spin on it. Like Ryan said, he would love to be able to get this product out to every cattle, in the United States. But the reality of the matter is it takes money. It takes funding to be able to manufacture product, to get out to ranchers, farmers, or whoever. So what we're currently trying to do is go after some of that funding, and we're just about there. And it'll take a couple of weeks to do so. But there are some people that are going to listen to this recording and listening to this call, and they're going to be like, I don't want to wait on funding. I got problems now. I want my animals covered now. What is it going to cost for me to get this product out to my animals, right? Those type of people, please email me. I will make sure we get you tied in as well. So Ryan, do you want to address that or put your own spin on that situation?
No, I mean that's spot on. We've already had a lot of groups saying, "Look, okay, you'll pay for 150 cows. How do I pay for the other 3,000 head I have?" Again, it's all about numbers. I've never met a rancher that didn't care about his bottom line, and ultimately, that's it. I mean, right now, most of the ranchers we've been talking to are spending somewhere between $22 and $34 a head to maintain their fly treatment and pestilence elimination, with some questionable effectiveness behind it. We're somewhere around $10
And
per head.
I'm gonna put that slide back up once again if someone
Yeah.
wants to, if someone wants to take a picture of it to see the cost savings for those people that are like, hey, I want to get involved with this now, right? There it is.
And
Right
again,
there. Take a picture of
this
it.
won't be a retail price point. This is just what we estimate it's going to cost us to produce product and provide oversight and education during this process. Retail price points will be determined once that's all efficated, blah, 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 right? We're not trying to take this to retail market yet and begin making money, but we do want anyone who, again, has a larger herd than what we can cover in a trial, et cetera, to be able to have an option. So it's kind of what that slide represents.
Yep. Absolutely. So, so who else? I'm kind of monitoring the unmute functions here, to see who else wants to unmute and ask a question. And if no one unmutes, I do have another question for you, Ryan. And that question is, I'm still looking, no one mutes. Could behavioral-based solutions become part of future control programs?
Well, I mean, that's what we're here to run a study on and to advocate. I believe that the more we understand about nature, the more we can use nature to maybe, again, not eradicate, but disrupt and relocate. You know, there's programs being ran right now to where, like I said, they're using these sterile flies. They're trapping these flies. They won't let you kill them. They don't want you to use traps that eradicate. They want to be able to collect them for data and reintroduction. And well, the trap system that we have allows for that. However, it does kill the fly ultimately. They are stuck to a sticky liner on the inside of that trap, and they're not going anywhere. It allows us to collect them, identify, again, first identification response during this biosecurity threat is going to be key. And then eliminating infections or preventing infections from the start. That's the goal. We don't care if we see screwworm flies in our traps. We actually are looking for that. What we don't want to see is infections. And that's what we're there to monitor.
Now, with that said, and us talking about, future applications and future programs, why focus on behavioral science, in terms of how it works and how it goes on?
Well, I mean, again, the alternative is chemical carcinogens, right?
Mhm.
Things to kill. And that's what we've been focused on for the last 100 years. I believe it's time we, again, look at nature to how do we curb some of the things that we don't want to see in nature without damaging the environment or, again, our food supply.
Absolutely. And I love the fact that, this is 100% US based, US manufactured, and being distributed, throughout the US, prior to going to other areas of the world, because I feel like this system is going to be, very important, very critical, moving forward. So man, I truly appreciate what you've put together since the time I've known you, and just, it's like I've known you so long, but it's like there are so many levels to you that I'm just I'm just now getting to. It's absolutely unreal. So we've been out here, almost an hour. Wanted to be very respectful of people's time, and starting on time, as well as stopping on time if need be. We can go longer if we need to, but you know just wanted to close this thing out, and you give your parting comments, not only on why products like this are important to getting New World Screwworm under control, but at the same time, moving forward, you kind of started down the track, natural versus chemical. Like how far down that road is Ryan Early ready to go for the future?
Well, I can tell you this, we've taken our Blue Magic horticultural products to some of the biggest in the business. Um, they they were threatened more or less by it. Um, through some red flags, right? We had to pull back from commercial distribution and self-distribute. Um, and I think that, again, these are all companies that are owned by foreign entities. But it's foreign technology that is bleeding American dry in every sector. This is developed here. I've put $5 million of my own money into this,
Jeez.
and 8 years of my life's work. And it's been very welcoming in the agricultural community regarding livestock for our technology. So I'm excited for it. We want to get it out. We don't want to sell it to one of the big gorillas and let them shelf it, which is why it's important that we enact these internal field trials, because we don't have to. We're not a chemical. We're not a 2A pesticide. Um, we can bypass a lot of the regulatory stuff that they can't. We can get our products directly to ranchers right now under trial status. Um, anyways, I think it's key that, again, Americans get behind American things. We're using American packaging, from the bottles to the labels to the cases they'll come in, all made in America. CKS Plastics, Pratt Industries.
Hopefully we can get some hemp in those plastics.
Well, we're working on that too, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
So, that's the deal. I mean, this is American technology made in America and for American ranchers. That's pretty much it in a nutshell.
And the last thing that I'll address before we get off, if someone hears this and they're moved to action, like I know the steps, like I just got a rancher through the steps, the three-step system that you have, but just wanted you to lay it out. Step one is, signing of the NDA, right? And what are the steps?
Well, I mean, that's it. We can't do much without an NDA. As far as getting further into our platform, what it looks like, what's in it. Pretty standard with any research program, really. Secondly is an enrollment form, which gives us the information for the ranch. What type of cattle, what type of livestock, how many head, location, current methods deployed, current, status of pressure on the livestock is a big one that we're monitoring. We want to see reduced pressure. In other words, again, happier cows, happier horses, happier pigs. That's a big thing for us versus, you overspray your animals with currently approved products and, well, they can die, let alone, not produce what they should be producing in the time frame they should be producing it. So those are all metrics that, again, we want to monitor. Again, nothing in the product is unsafe. The active is plant derived, and it is patent pending. So
And there, so step one is the NDA. I know step three, is the actual enrollment, but step two, that's where we send out the rules of engagement for your program. Is that correct?
Well, and the liability waiver and
Right.
authorization to disclose, pictures, et cetera, from the trial, blah, blah, blah. It's really, it's really very basic
Yep.
stuff for anything that we're looking to get into. And that pretty much we would have to have. I mean, you saw how much I gutted from what council sent over, about
Yes.
about 50%. So we got to make it easy. We can't make it difficult, right?
Right.
The website is up and live, farraguard.ag, for anyone that wants to go run through that. A lot of these slides that JJ has been showing are up on the website. You can run through those, cost comparatives, product information sheets, etc. Again, we can't sell anything. It's not for sale. It's by participation only.
And
Um,
one final thing that I wanted to throw out there, as well, and I call a spade all the time. Every individual rancher, every individual farmer has their own system for how they get things done. I know some people don't like doing paperwork, and if someone wants to send you the NDA, but it takes you a week or two to get the NDA back to, get it signed and turned in, hey, that's fine. That's not a problem. But just know that others are coming in, things are going on within the system. So, when paperwork is sent across, it would be most advantageous to get it back ASAP so that we can work to get you product, ASAP. I know I've got one gentleman on the call. He knows exactly who he is. Kudos to him for getting all the paperwork done. So now he's just waiting on product, and it'll be a good time. So within the next couple of weeks, that should be the case. So wanted to give everyone one more final chance to unmute or raise a hand and ask a question before we disconnect. Okay, going once, going twice. Okay, all right. So there we go. Well, Ryan, there you have it, man. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you taking time on Father's Day to do this. Ryan's a new grandfather, by the way. So happy Father's Day to you for sure. And man, definitely looking forward to making this program happen for those who want to be involved with it.
Thank you very much, JJ, and I'll look for the link for this whenever you get it out. I know
Yep.
I got a lot of people that couldn't be here, but are looking forward to seeing it.
Hey, the recording is on the way. As soon as it finishes buffering, I'm going to get that bad boy uploaded ASAP tonight.
Sounds good. Well,
Okay.
appreciate everybody joining us. Thanks for having me on.
No worries at all, man.
All
Thank you
right.
for being out here. Y'all have a good day.
Oh, thank you.
All right.
Take care.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.